In my online PMP Exam Prep course, there are more than 1600 practice questions. Some are simple, but others are really tricky. Today, I picked 5 of the hardest ones. Less than 10% of students got them right. If you can answer even 3 out of 5, you're already doing better than most people preparing for the exam. So grab a pen, pause after each question and test yourself, because questions like these can definitely show up on your PMP exam. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Sabri C. I've been teaching project management for many years, and my PMP Exam Prep course on Udemy has helped thousands of students pass their exams. It's also the best-selling PMP course on Udemy worldwide. You can find the course link below this video. Okay, let's get started. Here's the first question. The team used to work in predictive environments. This year, to comply with new company policies, they will start applying agile approaches. One of the team members asked the project manager how they should inform others about the project's progress. Which tools can be used for this purpose? Choose the best 3 options. So, we have a multiple choice question here. In the question it says they will start applying agile approaches this year. Therefore, if we see any option that is mainly used in predictive environments, we can eliminate it. Let's quickly take a look at the options. A. Kanban board. This is definitely used in agile environments. B. Backlog burn-up chart is also an agile tool. C. Velocity burn-up matrix. We don't have anything like this in real life. Velocity is a measure of how many story points a team completes in a sprint, but we don't use any kind of burn-up matrix with it. So let's eliminate this option. D. Information radiator, E. Feature chart, and F. Planning poker. All of this can also be used in agile environments. As you can see, we quickly eliminated one of the options. Now, since we need to choose the best 3, all we have to do is identify the 2 options that cannot be used to inform others about project progress. Let's go through each option one by one. A Kanban board looks something like this. As you can see, we have columns such as to do, in progress, and completed. When we define a story, we place it in the to-do column. When we are ready to work on it, we move it to the in progress column. Finally, when it's finished, we move it to the completed column. So yes, we do get some information about project progress here. But the problem is that the Kanban board only shows the stories that are currently defined. In other words, it does not provide an estimate of the total number of stories that will need to be completed over the entire project. So let's put a question mark next to this option. If you find options that give us better progress information, we will eliminate this one. A backlog burn-up chart is a visual tool that shows us how much work has been completed over time compared to the total scope of the project. It looks something like this. As you can see, we represent the number of stories completed for different features in the backlog. As the project progresses, we can see how close we are to finishing the backlog. This chart can be used to communicate progress clearly to stakeholders and also to forecast when the team might finish based on their pace. Therefore, B is definitely one of the best options. An information radiator is another great tool. This is any large, visible display placed in a common area, showing real-time information about the project's status. It could be charts, boards, or any visual data that makes the project's progress instantly obvious to anyone walking by. Since we can use it to inform others about the project's progress, the information radiator is also one of the best options too. A feature chart focuses on tracking the completion of high-level features instead of detailed tasks. It gives stakeholders a quick snapshot of how many features are done and how many are left. Here is an example. As you can see here, the chart shows the total number of stories, completed stories, and the remaining stories. Since we can track progress using this chart, we can easily say that this is one of the best options as well. Planning poker, on the other hand, is primarily used for estimating story points during backlog refinement or sprint planning. It doesn't really tell us how much progress has been made in the project. So, while it's an agile tool, it doesn't help with informing others about ongoing progress. Let's eliminate this. We had a question mark on the Kanban board because it doesn't show the total number of estimated stories. Since we have three better options that include this information, we can eliminate this option. Therefore, the best answers for this question are B, D, and E. Now, here comes the second question. Dev Consulting will work on a brand new project. The project manager knows that it is important to share authority within the project. What should the project manager consider when sharing authority in the project? Choose the best two answers. So we again have a multiple choice question here. The focus here is on how authority is shared, meaning what factors the project manager should take into account when deciding who gets decision-making power or responsibility in the project. Let's carefully analyze the options one by one. A. Team member personas. Yes, this is a good option. Personas may include information about the interests, motivations, experiences, and skill levels of team members. All this information is important when we decide how much authority to delegate. For example, a highly experienced and motivated team member might be trusted with more responsibility compared to someone who is just starting out. So, A makes sense. B. Race and gender of the team members. This should never be a factor in project management. Authority is shared based on competence, roles, and project needs, never on personal attributes such as race or gender. This option is clearly incorrect. C. Politics within the organization. While organizational politics can affect project decisions in general, they don't directly guide how authority should be shared inside the team. This option is not the best fit for the context of the question. D. Customer expectations. This is a strong option. Customers may have specific expectations about who makes decisions, who approves changes, or how communication flows. For example, they might expect certain authority levels to align with contractual obligations or reporting structures. Therefore, customer expectations should absolutely be considered. Although we identified the two best options, let's also review the last option to understand why it isn't the best choice. The team charter defines ground rules, team values, and working agreements. While it supports collaboration, it doesn't determine how authority is shared. Instead, it documents agreements after authority sharing decisions are made. So, the best two answers in this case are A. Team member personas and D. Customer expectations. Okay then, here is the next question. Your company has changed its vision and defined new strategies to align with it. Since your project has only 10% physical progress, it should be shut down due to this new strategy. Which of the following processes should occur after this activity? In this question, the key phrase is that the project will be shut down due to a strategic decision. After the termination decision, we should think about the immediate next process in the correct sequence. Many students get confused between options B and D in this question. That's why I would like to go over the other two options first and then explain which one we should choose between B and D. Option A is perform integrated change control. This process is for reviewing and approving change requests to plans and deliverables. In our scenario, the decision to terminate has already been made by management. We are not evaluating a change request anymore. So A does not happen after the shutdown decision. Eliminate A. C. Monitor communications is an ongoing monitoring process to ensure information flows properly. While we will certainly communicate the termination and next steps, monitor communications is not the discrete next process the question is asking for. Let's eliminate C. Now, validate scope is the process where the customer or sponsor formally accepts completed deliverables. Even we only reached 10% progress, any completed work should be reviewed and accepted or documented as not accepted before we can formally close. So immediately after the termination decision, we move to validate scope to get formal acceptance of whatever has been completed. This strongly fits the what should occur after this activity wording. Here, we absolutely will close the project, but not before we validate any completed deliverables. The correct order is termination decision, validate scope, and then close project or phase. Therefore, the best answer here is B, validate scope. Here comes the fourth question then. This is a long one. One of the team members was hired last week and has just started working on the project. She is experienced enough for the position and also has many additional skills that could be very helpful for the project. Although she meets all the skill sets identified by the client, she could not start a specific work package today because it requires knowledge of a technique used by the project manager, which she does not know. Since she was unable to start working on the work package, it is clear that this will cause a project delay. What is the primary reason for this delay? So, we are looking for the primary reason. In other words, the root cause, not just a downstream fix. The team member has the client identified skills, but the missing technique is something the project manager is responsible for. This points us toward stakeholder coverage during hiring. Let's go through the options. A. Knowledge of this technique should have been listed as a required skill in the skill set identified by the client. Not necessarily. The client's list doesn't have to capture every internal technique or tool preference used by the project manager. Many role-critical capabilities come from internal stakeholder needs, not only from the client's list. So blaming the client's list is misdirected. Eliminate A. B. A contingency reserve should have been added for this risk. A contingency reserve could offset the schedule impact, but it doesn't address why the mismatch occurred. Reserves are a response to uncertainty, not the cause of the delay. Also, this gap was knowable by the project manager. It's their technique. So relying on contingency instead of planning the requirement upfront is not the root cause. So let's eliminate this option. C. Stakeholder requirements should have been considered when hiring the team member. Yes, the project manager is a stakeholder, and their process and technique requirements should feed into the hiring criteria and role definition. If the project manager's technique had been captured as a required competency, or at least planned for via training, mentoring, or role allocation, the mismatch would likely not exist. This points to the root cause: incomplete stakeholder requirement capture during hiring. A strong candidate. Now, option D. The project manager should have reviewed this team member's skills before starting the work package. This would have helped earlier detection and allowed reassignment or quick training, potentially reducing the delay. But it's still a downstream control. The primary reason the delay exists is that the hiring criteria didn't reflect stakeholder or project manager requirements in the first place. This is a contributing factor, not the root cause. So we will eliminate this option. Therefore, the best answer is C. Stakeholder requirements should have been considered when hiring the team member. This is the primary reason for this delay. Okay, here is the last question. This is again a long one. The project work for Project A is about to start. A meeting is held to determine the project's vision. During the meeting, one of the high-level executives began talking about an issue related to another project, Project B. The conversation then shifted into a discussion about finding a solution for Project B's issue. As a result, the team members started to feel that their project was not important to the organization, which caused them to lose motivation. What should the project manager have done to prevent this? So, we are not looking for a reactive fix during or after the meeting. We are looking for the proactive action that would have prevented the disruption and the resulting drop in motivation. Let's review the options. A. Prepared a meeting agenda and send it to all attendees before the meeting. An agenda is helpful and often necessary. However, it does not, by itself, stop a senior stakeholder from disrupting the discussion once the meeting is in progress. Good practice, but not sufficient for prevention. We can eliminate A. Option B. Advise the executive to only talk about Project A during the meeting. This is reactive and situational. It might work once, but it relies on the project manager confronting a senior leader in the moment. It doesn't create a repeatable, shared norm for all future meetings, and it also risks relationship friction. We are seeking a systemic preventive measure, not an ad hoc intervention. So B is eliminated. C. Held another meeting beforehand to establish a clear set of rules for meetings. Yes, this is talking about establishing ground rules. These rules define how we keep topics in scope, how we use a parking lot for off-topic items, facilitation roles, time limits, and respectful participation. These rules are applicable to everyone, including executives. With ground rules in place, the facilitator can confidently redirect and keep the vision meeting on track. The last option. Explain to the team members the importance of their project to the organization. This addresses morale after the damage is done. It is remedial communication, not prevention. It does not stop future meetings from going off topic. For this reason, this cannot be the best answer. Therefore, the best answer is C. Held another meeting beforehand to establish a clear set of rules for meetings. This is strong, preventive, and systemic. Awesome work today. These weren't easy. If you cracked 3 or more, you're already ahead of most candidates. If you didn't, no worries. Now we know exactly where to focus before the exam day. Drop your score in the comments and tell me which question tripped you up. I read every comment and I will use your feedback to pick the next set of gotcha questions. If you want structured practice, join us in my online PMP Exam Prep course. You will find the link below. If this helped, give the video a like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next challenge set. I am Sabri C. Thanks for studying with me today. Keep learning.